All right, and welcome back to another episode of ChekPoint, the podcast highlighting and telling the stories of influential leaders in and around the sports industry. Today, we are beyond excited to have Andrew Magee join us from Morgan State University. Andrew has been serving as an assistant athletic director at Morgan State under Dr. Edward Scott for the last 3 years, and specifically oversees their football team and operations. Andrew was a decorated athlete, lettering in 2 sports at 2 different universities, UCLA and Maryland. And I bet any of our listeners could not guess what sports he played. There'll be a fun little bet there at the in the middle of the show for all of our listeners. Andrew, we are beyond thrilled to have you on the show. How are things going in your neck of the woods as students are coming back for fall and we're trying to figure out how to get sports up and running?
Scott, thank you for having me on, number one. Number two, I said this last time we spoke, if I need you for an agency fee for my next contract with Dr. Scott, I'll be sure to give you exactly 0.001%. All is well on our end. I've been saying this line and everyone loves it. I'm living the dream, obviously as much of a dream as you can be living during this time. We're fired up to get our student athletes back on campus whenever that might be. It's obviously a fluid situation, but we're really itching to compete, whether it's this fall, this spring, whenever, we'll be ready to go.
100%, man. And I think we all are, right? Like whether we're spectators, athletes, coaches, administrators, we're all just itching for some kind of sport. And so, last week we had Haven Fields on, the deputy athletic director at Ball State, who gave us an inside look to how they're handling things in the MAC. And, with you, wearing the hat for football, can you give our listeners some insight into, what the MidEastern Athletic Conference is saying, as far as schedules go, football playing and other sports?
Absolutely. So for the fall, our season has been suspended. We're hoping to play in the spring. The conference put out a release last week regarding the North and South divisions for the spring. So we're really on board with it as a university and as an athletic department. We think it makes sense from an economic standpoint, but also from a student athlete welfare standpoint. The more we can reduce travel, as everyone, I'm not Dr. Fauci, but the more we can reduce travel, I think the healthier we can be.
Yeah, no, that's heard loud and clear, right? Like, I mean, we want to make sure that first and foremost, the student athletes are safe, and then, sports will follow, hopefully close behind. So, well, cool, man. Well, welcome to ChekPoint, and what we're going to be doing today is sort of taking a deep dive into, who Andrew Magee is and what your careers look like leading up to your short tenure at Morgan State, what you're currently doing at Morgan State, which is a ton. And, we'll wrap it up with where you plan to see, where you want your career to go and sort of where you see the industry going over the next 3 to 5 years. So, sort of starting there and, we put a little dangled the carrot for our listeners at the beginning. Let's start with your 2 sports at 2 schools. Any listeners, if you are watching, you'll see Andrew's, pretty filled out kind of guy. So I'm guessing football, but why don't you fill the listeners in on what your athletic career looked like?
I appreciate it, Scott. Yes, I do fill out these custom. But in all seriousness, yeah, we always use it as kind of a icebreaker joke. If anyone can guess the 2 sports that I competed in, I'll give them all the money in my bank account. And so I played football at UCLA, and then I transferred and I played tennis at Maryland. I kind of joke and say I'm the only Division I scholarship student athlete in football and tennis. Until someone tells me otherwise, I'm going to keep claiming it. But that was my student athlete career that kind of propelled me into administration, and I wouldn't change it.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And that bridges right into where I want to go, which is, obviously 2020 as an administrator has just got to be bizarre, right? Like, I mean, I think we're all experiencing it, but nothing that we'd ever experienced as athletes or athletic programs. What do you pull from your athletic days that help you navigate the waters as we're just in a time of so much unknown?
I think in every unknown, there's an opportunity. So we're trying to figure out how we can take advantage of this time and help our student athletes be more prepared for life after college. I told you this previously when we spoke. I think we're living in the future right now. Robert Herjavec said that actually, and I'm a big Shark Tank fan, so I kind of stole it from him. But I think this is a great opportunity for our student athletes to really master their technology, and get ready for their life after their athletic careers, because right now they have a lot of excess time that they didn't previously have when they were on campus.
Sure. No, that's exactly right. Now, on that note, we talk about life after sports, and you doubled down and came back into the belly of the beast, and continued to give back to athletes. What sort of sparked that for you to not part ways with athletics after your sports career, and made you go back into the administrative side of things?
Absolutely. So I really enjoyed my time as a student athlete. I really thought my experience was unique, but I really enjoyed it. And so that was the first thing that sparked my interest. And then fortunately for me, I made a great decision. July 5th, 2017 was my first day at Morgan State. The good Dr. Scott took a chance on me, and I came from Texas A&M, and it's been an absolutely stellar experience from a professional, personal, diversity, everything I've asked for in terms of growth, I've gotten in more in this profession. And so I really appreciate him and, my career. And then that second decision after I kind of finished playing and finished my master's degree at Texas A&M have kind of led me to this career I'm in right now.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And now one thing that I'm super curious with is, interviewing Haven, at the MAC, we got a sneak peek at what looked like from a mid-major perspective. And, coming from Texas A&M, that's big time Power 5. What has been your experience at, out of Morgan State, that is an HBCU, and, maybe smaller budgets, different demographics, just speak to that as we're getting more visibility into what the life of an HBCU looks like, with, everything going on in society today.
So prior to arriving at Morgan, I had never been at a non-Power 5 institution, and I didn't really know a lot about them, to be honest. But I viewed it as an opportunity for me to have as a large an impact as possible on a wide array of student athletes, as well as departments within our athletic department. So while our resources might be limited, we are classified as a limited resource institution. We are finding ways to stretch our dollars, so to speak. And for me personally, it's a great experience because I get to kind of dabble in, you touched on it earlier, a little bit of everything. So personally, it's been an absolutely stellar experience. I wouldn't change it.
Amazing. And I mean, I know, so, Andrew and myself, we're same age, 30 years old. And, he's been pioneering his way, sort of through the weeds and just evolving the program since he's landed there in 2017. And, has really done some forward facing stuff with, landing partnerships and, with nutrition companies and, the athlete book, which is really developing, the student athlete for life after sport. Andrew, give us an insight as to, what other initiatives are you guys working on at Morgan State to provide for your athletes during this shakeup of, no one being on campus during the fall?
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to be really fiscally responsible and then find other ways to generate revenue. We want our student athletes to view their experience at Morgan the same as a Texas A&M, Maryland, UCLA. We want them to have a Division I Power 5 student athlete experience. So we need to be able to provide them the resources necessary to have that experience. The next kind of item we're working on, so to speak, that I felt good about prior to COVID, and we're going to get it done eventually, is hopefully a nutrition station. You spoke about previously, a protein provider sponsorship that we were able to secure with Optimum Nutrition. Obviously, that will go hand in hand very well. We are very committed to providing our student athletes with an endless amount. I hope that's compliant. Endless amount of protein meals, everything they need to compete on and off the field.
Amazing. And for any of you listeners out there, if this sparks a wild hair and, you're looking to sponsor and get behind an up and coming program, Andrew's always looking for people to sponsor, projects such as the nutrition bar, really just give back to the community and elevate the experience for these folks, which is, it's what it's all about, right? You reach one, you teach one. And so that's sort of what we live by on this side. And, on that same note, with the shakeup of COVID, and we'll pivot off of that here after this question, but you worked so hard to raise, the cumulative GPA. When you came in, you absorbed, maybe academics wasn't at the forefront. And if I'm not mistaken, you've raised it up to a 3.15.
That is correct.
how do you guys, with classes being so disjointed and not having everyone under one umbrella, as a university, how do you handle that from an academic lens to make sure the students are, both taken care of in their health and also still getting that great education?
So when we arrived, when I say we, Dr. Scott arrived just before me, and I was very lucky to be his first hire. I hope he still thinks it was a good one. When we arrived, our football program's academics were in disarray, to put it lightly. Yep. Our team GPA was around a 2.2. Our APR was unbelievably low. I didn't even know the number went so low. But you spoke to it this past semester. We had a 3.15 GPA. We had over 50 guys over a 3.0. So I mean, we've really been doing our part in the classroom. But like I said earlier, I think technology has really has been our advantage. We have virtual study halls. I'm in constant contact with professors regarding their progress in their course, their attendance virtually, just getting weekly updates and then sharing them with position coaches and our head coach. And that's the biggest thing, is to have head coach buy-in, and that obviously trickles down to the student athletes. And I can tell you our head coach is fully bought into our student athletes getting meaningful degrees, and hopefully 2 degrees. So we've really changed the culture of our program in terms of academics. And I spoke about it briefly about the 2 degrees. We want our kids to graduate in 4 or less years. So that puts them on a track, if they redshirt, get injured, whatever happens, to pursue a master's degree. And, I use the line, I want our kids to milk the cow dry. I want them to take advantage of us. I want them to leave us with 2 degrees, internship experience, everything they need to go get a full-time job of their liking. So I think they've seen that there's a direct causation between great academic performance, post-athletic career success.
100%. And, as we touched on the athlete book a little bit earlier, and, some of these other resources that you're pulling off the sideline to really just make sure that, when the athlete leaves Morgan State, that, they're ready to go enter the job force, whether that's through Zoom or in the office, really just making sure you mold that, complete human there. And, man, I got to tell you, I played football at South Alabama and, built the program there from the ground up. And it is just encouraging to be on the outside looking back in at athletics to know there's folks like yourself that are just focused on the bigger picture, not just the W's and L's at the end of a season, which is just really exciting. So now we get to the fun stuff, right? I'm going to talk a little football here because this has been a topic sort of pre-COVID, and I'm curious your lens on it. So, we've seen technology come in and just evolve the game, sports as a whole. What has been some of the biggest shakeups that you've seen, with technology being implemented, for better or for worse? And how do you guys embrace that over there at Morgan State?
It was actually a question in the interview process that I had for Coach Wheatley, was how do you plan to involve technology in our program? And he wanted to use as much data analytics as possible. We're lucky we have a software called Teamworks that we use for all calendar communication. We're able to send files. We're able to send cut-ups. It's basically our one-stop shop for our program. But if we're not being technologically smart, we're falling behind the competition. So we're always trying to find new and innovative ways that are also budget-friendly, that we can adapt and use technology in any way possible.
Yeah, and so quick plug for our listeners. We're going to have Larry Long Jr. on as the next guest, and he's the VP of Sales for Teamworks. So really unique perspective he's going to be coming with. But when you talk about being fiscally responsible, right? We know that college programs typically rely on, their football program to generate revenue, subsidize some of the other sports, but it's sort of a broken model. And so, you've come in and structured some deals that are, what I like to think are really innovative, right? Where it's, if you want to just expand on how you're, being fiscally responsible, but yet still yielding the same technology and opportunities for your athletes. I think the listeners would really benefit from just understanding the mindset that you took to Morgan State.
Well, I agree with you. The economic model is broken. And you're seeing that right now with a lot of these athletic departments are really struggling financially due to either football cancellations or suspensions. I don't know if it's really fiscally responsible to rely on 4 months of every year to fund you in perpetuity forever. So, what we've done is we're really we're always in the black. Dr. Scott says this in almost every meeting. We don't run deficits, and I don't do debt. So I like paying my bills when they're due. Biggie Smalls has the line, I like paying when the rent's due.
Yeah. Shout out, Biggie.
I'll let you finish the rest.
Yeah.
So, I think we've been very fiscally responsible because we don't really have another choice. We don't have an endless budget. We don't have a Power 5 budget. So what I've tried to do is be strategic in partnerships with various corporations. We've done a lot of in-kind trade partnerships. So that really makes our budget extend. So if we do an in-kind trade partnership with a food vendor, for example, we know we're going to need a post-game meal. Well, now we have a post-game meal partner. They provide the meal. We exchange the partnership so that they get marketing value out of it as well. So it really helps both parties. And it helps us from a PR standpoint because now we have a corporate partner attached to our brand.
I think that's it's just so forward thinking, and it's like you said at the top of this show, in every crisis comes opportunity, and so I'm really hoping that as tenured athletic administrators and folks that are in school right now, studying the trade, start to think about these out of the box ways that Dr. Scott has let you just go and pioneer. And if you look at Morgan State, against other schools in the conference or traditional HBCUs, I mean, these guys are playing to go not only at the Celebration Bowl. Is that correct? Is that what it is?
That is.
But looking to say, if we have an undefeated season, we want to be recognized with the Power Fives of the world. And so, the foundation you're laying by getting creative and doing non-traditional things, I think are putting you guys right at that intersection of success. And it's just, again, kudos, man. You guys are really doing some cool things at Morgan State. So, So real quick before we bridge into what the future looks like, name, image, likeness was really permeating the landscape for collegiate athletics pre-coronavirus, and now it's just a big web of confusion. But what were you guys doing to address the name, image, likeness topic to make sure your athletes were in a position to take advantage of that or still take advantage of it with the current situation?
So it was a constant topic pre-COVID in all of our senior staff meetings, our head coaches meetings. An advantage we have in our where we're located is that we're in the 16th largest media market in the country. So that's a huge recruiting advantage for us. And we're going to sell that in recruiting to our incoming student athletes. Look at all the opportunities you have to get jobs. And if this gets passed, and depending on how it goes down we'll obviously adjust, and if it's feasible, we're going to use it as an advantage.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. It's I don't know if you can look back to your playing days at UCLA or Maryland, but the idea of a college athlete earning money seemed dystopian. But I guess so did going to work on the computer. So I guess it's all relative these days, But no, it's and you got a great partner with Teamworks who's really helped pioneering the space with their with influencer joining their brand and really giving athletes the opportunity to start while they're in college and build that brand that will follow them for their whole career, both personally and professionally. And that's going to be one my little plug is if I could go back and do it all over again, for anybody in the in school or out of school, in 2020, it's not about who you know, but it's about who knows you. And so I would encourage everybody to do what Andrew's doing and do what Haven's doing and all of our future guests, and just taking some time to get out there and tell your story, because the more people hear it, the more people become acquainted with you. And before you know it, you start to really permeate change to people that you had no clue about. So really cool, man. This is I'm loving the conversation here. Now, let's go futuristic, right? You've been in the space now for a few years. Where do you see the field going over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think the economic, as we talked about earlier, I think there's going to be a large shift economically. I think you're going to see, and this line's been thrown around a lot recently, is right sizing. You're going to have more employees doing multiple things instead of having just one specified skill. I think that will be in high demand. And then I just think departments are going to get smaller and you're going to see more necessities. So you're going to be spending on needs and less on wants. I think for a second there, college athletics, the spending got a little out of control. And this is, in every crisis comes an opportunity. This is an opportunity to kind of right-size the ship.
I love that, man. I love that. Yeah. And I hope that there is more of that symbiotic relationship between the player and the organization or the university. And we do see that level out. But again, it's going to take people from within to really drive that change. So, all right, we're hanging up the college football talk for right now. We're going to get to know Andrew a little bit. This is all off the cuff here. He has no clue this is coming. So I'm curious, during COVID, what have you been doing for fun? How have you been keeping yourself entertained and not pulling that little hair that you have on your head out?
Better still be there.
Look at this. I got
nothing. My schedule really hasn't changed pre-COVID to post-COVID. I kind of am a ritual beast, I would say. I wake up at 4:30. I go work out. I read. I'm lucky we're still able to be in the office. So not much has changed. I've been engaged for a while now, and I keep joking that it keeps getting extended so she can have more time to leave me if she wants. But we get married this summer, and obviously it's been postponed to next summer. But honestly, my schedule hasn't changed much. It's just a lot more virtual. We still have the same team meetings, individual meetings, staff calls, and I'm just trying to find new sources for revenue.
Man, I love it. It is really cool. I think there's silver linings in everything that comes, whether it's a pandemic or something personal, they're all about your mindset to find those silver linings. And I got to tell you, this exposed a lot of cracks in the NCAA. It exposed a lot of cracks in our society. But it is really neat to see how fast and quick humans are able to adapt and figure out the new normal. And it leaves me with a lot of confidence that we're going to be able to weather this storm. And it's not a matter of if sports come back, it's more a matter of when sports come back. And so as we wind down the show, Andrew, I have one last question for you. And this is, if you could tell our listeners one thing that you've done in your life that you would recommend they do or experience in theirs, what would that be and why?
So the daily/weekly do is I started this in 2015, and I was like most student athletes who didn't read in college other than assigned reading material. I started reading a book a week, and I read somewhere that the top CEOs in the world read 60 books a year. So I made the goal of reading 61 books that year, and I achieved the goal, and I continue to read religiously. And I would say the return on investment has been exponential. I couldn't even put a number on it. So that's kind of the weekly, daily do that I would recommend. I recommend it to our guys. I have all of my books, my personal books in my office, and I've kind of started a book club, so to speak. I just think it's a great pastime that people aren't taking advantage of, where they're spending money on other things that have no return on investment. And the return on investment for reading is very well documented.
Sure thing. And any books that stick out to you that you would highlight and recommend for our listeners?
Absolutely. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Good to Great.
Good one.
Yeah. Good to Great to Unstoppable. Relentless by Tim Grover. I'm sure everyone watching this watched the Michael Jordan 30 for 30. He was the trainer in that. His book is unbelievable. It kind of runs the gamut. I kind of have a few genres that I read, and it's business, motivational leadership, history, biography. I'm just trying to soak in as much knowledge as possible. And I think the thing that I would recommend as well is getting knowledge from arenas outside of the one you're in. A lot of people get siloed, and siloed thinking is what leads to non-transformative thinking. So I really want to gain as much knowledge outside of just college athletics. Anyone could sit here and watch, ESPNU the entire day. Yep. SEC Network is showing great games all day, every day right now. But if you're doing that, you're not really gaining any knowledge outside of your arena.
Love that. And do you feel like as you became more immersed in the reading that your mind just opened up to new possibilities, new ideas, or what was that transformation like? I'm just genuinely curious.
Absolutely. I think I became more innovative.
Ooh.
You sold me a little bit as my future agent here about these partnerships that I've secured. I think the ideas come from everywhere. And luckily, I've stolen a few from famous authors. And it really is an easy way to also be an icebreaker between you and someone you're trying to sell to, is a common book that you both have read. I think that usually gains a lot of immediate respect.
Love that. So my last question is, being such a proponent of technology, hardback, paperback, or Kindle? What's your preferred medium to read?
This is sad. I'm a huge proponent of technology, huge believer.
But
I have no Kindle. I have no electronic books. And I've always, a lot of the staff members at Texas A&M had very nice offices. So I told myself, when I got a nice office, I'd have a really cool bookshelf, and it'd be decked out with nice books. And it would look really professional, and people would be impressed with me. And so I started the collection of hard copies, and I don't care if it's a hard copy or paperback, but I don't do the tech ones, and my fiance rips me about it. She just hounds me. But I do the hard copies. There's just something about holding it. I think I gain more from reading it hard copy, but I would not recommend that. That's
I mean, look,
adverse to the future.
I sell technology, right? I sell going paperless, but there's something just about being able to underline and highlight and just flip back through the pages, and call me an old soul or call us old souls. But there is something just about that lineage of a paper book that, even as we go more digital, I don't think that we'll give those up. But who knows, man? The world's changing daily, so we'll see. So
when you look at them, I think you also kind of remember the key points to take away from them, and it can impact you on a daily basis.
Love that. Got to keep it in mind, right? Insight and mind there. So, well, Andrew, this has been an absolute pleasure. We've loved having you as a guest here on ChekPoint, and we're going to go ahead and post this. We're going to tag Andrew on Twitter, so you guys can get a hold of him if you want to hear more about his story. If you want to learn more about Morgan State and future sponsorship opportunities, we'll include some links to make sure that Andrew is available. But again, thank you so much for hopping on with us, and best of luck with this upcoming season.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Scott.